However, at that point, somebody expressed out loud whatever Essie dreaded would happen when she was gotten consume her. He said, "How about we consume her life quite a while?" Back in a little town, in the delightful condition of Edu, Nigeria, there was a lady called Essie who lived with her little girl. At this in their town, ESS was prominently known as a transient. She asked for everything from the clothing she and her girl wore to the food they ate. However, on one occasion she acquired another title that would torment her for the remainder of her life. Hoodlum that day, she had gone into the commercial center to ask for some fish, yet the lady furiously sent her away. "I have been giving you fish for the recent days. Are you going to continue to implore me your whole life?" the lady said to her. Anyway, ESS wouldn't surrender. She continued to ask the lady. However, when she understood, the lady's mind was made up. She took some fish from her table and started leaving. Trusting the lady didn't notice, the lady yelled, alarming others on the lookout. ESS took a stab at running as quick as her legs could convey her, yet sadly some men had the option to get her. The market brokers encompassed her and started blaming her for things she didn't have the foggiest idea about. "I realize you are the cheat that has been taking my arms," one told her. Then one more said, "I saw this cheat strolling through the market late around evening time." Then they all started to recite, "Oh ye, oh ye, oh ye." However, at that point, somebody said what Essie dreaded would happen when she was gotten consume her. He said, "How about we consume her life now?" It was old practice to consume guilty parties, particularly the individuals who were seen as at fault for taking ESS shuddered in dread, and she started to cry and ask for her life. It was without a doubt the initial time she had taken, yet no one trusted her. Rather, a few dealers hurried to get things to light her up. However, they were soon hindered by a boisterous voice. "La, don't kill her." La EC turned upward and saw a lady called Osas, was a widow who was very famous in the town. In light of her liberality that day, she was in the market to get some food stuff when she saw the abomination that was going to happen. Due to Oasis standing, the dealers quit their arrangement to kill ESS. After all, the vast majority of them ate free of charge in her home. "Kindly allowed me to take you to your house," Isis generously told Essie, and Essie promptly stood up saying thanks to her for coming to her help. When they showed up at ES's home, USA's was stunned to see her unfortunate living condition. However, what stunned her the most was when ESS started to sing. As they got to the entryway, out of nowhere, a small kid of around 2 years old opened the entryway. The tune filled in as a sign for the kid to open. At whatever point her mom sang it, "Is she your girl?" Osis asked her, and ESS given the thumbs up and said her name is Adisa. OASPD the youngster, the most in light of the fact that she realized that in the blink of an eye, Essie may degenerate her girl to begin leaving some unacceptable kind of life. So she said to Essie, "My significant other passed on last year, and I live with my 1-year-old girl. I would like you and your girl to come. Furthermore, leave with us until things get better for both of you." Essie was stunned, since she had never gotten such generosity in all her years. When her guardians passed on, kicked the bucket, she was deserted by family members, who even assumed control over her folks' house, passing on her to fight for herself. So indeed, even as a small kid, she would talk to various towns, asking for food, and at the point when night fell, Essie would search for advantageous put to rest her head. Yet on one of those evenings, a man made use of her, leaving her pregnant quickly. ESS started stopping her and her girl's effects. Then they followed Osas to her home, and for the following month, Osas caused them to feel very well. Kamadisa resembled an elder sibling to Osi's child, Etinosa, and in spite of the fact that they were something very similar, Essie felt like Osas was the enormous sister she never had. However, Osas was still stressed over Essie, in light of the fact that she needed her to learn respectable work so consistently she would request that paper, follow her to her shop, to sell her textures. Yet that sort of life was not extremely helpful for paper, since she was accustomed to asking, "What's more?" getting free of charge, instead of sitting and trusting that clients will purchase, prior to bringing in cash to eat. It was the first time she needed to work for something. Furthermore, she despised the cycle, so exposition started to consider a path of least resistance, and an opportunity at last introduced itself. One morning, she heard Osas and a cash authority talking. They were talking about the month-to-month commitments the ladies in the town were making towards another commercial center. The lady had come to gather Osas installment, and they discussed the amount they possessed, had the option to assemble. When the lady left, Essie couldn't contain her delight. The cash they talked about was more than enough to give her and her girl a new life, far away from that town, where she would have the option to purchase a few farmlands and pay individuals to greenish-blue the soil so consistently she would screen the cash gatherer, seeing how frequently she moved around to empower her to design her mission appropriately. She before long understood that the cash gatherer kept the cash in a more modest age behind her house. When Essie thought she had learned enough, she chose to make her move that morning. She told Osas that she had a runny stomach and wouldn't be ready to join her in the shop. Yet Osas had her solicitation too. "My girl is debilitated. Furthermore, I can't take her to the store today. Could you at any point kindly take care of her? I'll go with Adisa to the shop." Essie was profoundly upset. How was she going to go about her main goal? With a child in her consideration, she'd chosen to go one more day. Yet when she ventured out to spread some garments, she went in the over a lady same compound as Osas. "Oh," the lady said, ridiculing her. In view of her past, individuals in the town had not excused her. After the occasion that occurred in the market square, Essie was extremely disturbed. She was weary of the residents calling out to her. So out of resentment, she switched her previous choice and chose to take the cash that day. Essie conveyed Etinosa on her back and started strolling to the H, where she generally saw the lady keep the cash. After all, from her discoveries, no one was ever around in the early hours of the day. However, she was wrong. A specific vigilante had seen Essie following the cash authority a few times, and he answered to her, so they set a snare and stood by without complaining for her to fall into it. The lady made it seem to be she was placing the cash in another hot, so at whatever point paper came to take, the vigilante would trap her inside and rebuff her for burglary. When Essie got to the house, she figured out how to break in. Then she started really taking a look at through the things in the H for the cash. Yet she was unable to track down it. Unexpectedly, a case grabbed her eye, and no doubt she trusted the cash was in there. However, there was a major karma on it, so she dropped the child on the bed also, slipped away to the rear of the H2. Burglary. When Essie got to the house, she figured out how to break in. Then she started really taking a look at through the things in the H for the cash, yet she was unable to track down it. Unexpectedly, a case grabbed her eye, and no doubt she trusted the cash was in there. However, there was a major karma on it, so she dropped the child on the bed, also slipped away to the rear of the H to get a weighty item to break the lock. However, at the point when she was slipping once again into the H, the vigilante saw her. He immediately went to alert a portion of his companions, and they ran there with sticks of fire, prepared to consume her alive. Now Essie had prevailed in breaking the lock. However, she was frustrated to not track down anything in there, so she chose to leave on the grounds that she was getting frightened. However, as she attempted to open the entryway, she understood it was stuck. The vigilante bunch had locked it from outside quickly. She heard giggling from outside. "Today you will bite the dust," one of them told her, as begun begging them. "There is a youngster in it, is right here. Oas youngster, kindly don't do this. Take her and leave me inside," she said. However, they thought it was her youngster. So another said, "Liar, it is your pointless youngster. take her alongside you to the place that is known for the dead, and very much like that, they started burning down the contacted rooftop. The plan was to kill her as quietly as conceivable, since, supposing that they brought her out, somebody might argue her Casey. As the smoke started to cloud, the entire room ESS continued to ask, "Please the child, I ask you, she's withering yet." The entirety of her arguing could never have an effect on the grounds that their brain was made up to kill her. And that was the way she passed on pitiably, with the most prominent anguish. And it was not, since she could never see her little girl once more. Yet it was on the grounds that she was answerable for the passing of Oa's child, the main individual who showed her the most prominent generosity. The report about what happened to ESS and her child started to course in the town, and soon it came to Osas. However, she questioned it, since she had ES's kid. At this were with her. Regardless of her questions, she chose to take a brief trip and see things for herself. When she showed up, the residents were stunned to see her with a dis. However, Osas continued to push ahead to where the cops lie, and when she at last got a look, she promptly perceived S's half-consumed body. Then she looked close to Essie and understood that it was her kid that lay on the floor, nearly unrecognizable, and immediately she blacked out. The following couple of days were horrendous for Osas. Quite recently, her significant other died, and presently her youngster was gone too. The townspeople assembled and out of her home to pay their sympathies. However, at whatever point they came in, they felt free to at Adiza like she was a reveal. Some of them were indeed even intense enough to revile the little youngster to her face. Oas then again had not expressed a word to Adisa since the episode. She was unable to deal with what she felt for the kid. Once in a while, she wouldn't give Adisa food, and different times she would gaze at her out of frustration. However, one day, she became so ill of seeing promotion Disa, so she chose to leave her someplace. Oas took her to the boundary of another town and started leaving her. However, at this, quickly begun running after her. Multiple times she would drag her back to the boundary. However, at this hour would hold, pursuing back to her. A few recorded endeavors. She reprimanded the kid and cautioned her not to follow her. Lastly, she tuned in. Yet as Osas left promotion, this started crying and calling. Osas quickly felt regret. It ended up being clear to her that Adisu saw her as her mom, and she was off base for faulting her for the slip-up her mom made. So she returned and embraced at this also. On that spot, she decided to accept Addis as her little girl. Yet her choice didn't agree with the locals. For however long they were concerned, they would continuously deal with her like an untouchable. As Adisa developed into a young woman, the locals actually had not changed their brains about her. They would, for the most part, label her as the offspring of a criminal or killer. Their female youngsters were not permitted to be companions with her, and their male youngsters were not permitted to consider wedding her. At whatever point she would attempt to get work from individuals, they would pay her not exactly normal, in light of the fact that, as indicated by them, they were doing her a favor. Her main cheerful spot was at home with her mom. A few times, Osas would propose, why not go to another town and begin once again? However, at this, denied, no one planned to make her abandon her mom tragically. Years after the fact, Osas died living at this without help from anyone else, and at this, at long last, realized the time had come to move out of the town, since she expected that the locals would kill her, assuming that they were allowed an opportunity. However, she didn't have the cash to go. Luckily, Osas left her a land parcel, so she chose to plant a few yields on the land, sell the reap, and ultimately sell the land. She accepted that anything she got from all of that would be sufficient to help her move. So the entire year she invested her energy watching out for the homestead. When it was the ideal opportunity for rape, she started preparing to accumulate her yields. However, one day when she shone up at the ranch, she saw a few laborers removing her harvests. Say thanks to God, you're at long last here, a man told her, Approaching out from the corner, she right away remembered him as the proprietor of the tremendous arbor homestead, exceptionally near hers. His name was Nosa, an exceptionally well-known boss in the town. "I'm recovering my territory back. I need to extend my ranch," the man told her. He said he loaned Osas the land numerous years prior in view of her generosity. Yet presently, she was gone. He needed it back. Promotion. Thissa started to cry. She realized the man was lying, since she was available when her mom purchased the land a long time back. She attempted to argue her case. However, the man asked the men on the homestead to throw her out. He wouldn't indeed even let her reap the harvests she had established. Adisa rushed to the Enog royal residence to argue her case, since this was an self-evident intrigue. The Enog heard her and said he planned to welcome her and boss Nosa to the castle. The following day, the Anuga kept to his words and required a meeting. He additionally welcomed different bosses. After the two players were heard, they were requested to return for the judgment in 7 days. However, at this one knew they would lean toward boss NSA. It was self-evident from the looks on their appearances. Yet she couldn't surrender. That land was her, as it were, way out of the town. Consistently she would go to the Enogia entryways and cry, beseeching him to judge the case reasonably. And each time the Lord would tune in from a long way away. He pied her, yet his options were limited. Boss Nosa was a rich looter rancher, and he added to the abundance of the town. So after the 7th day, he made a choice that would break A's heart. "This is my judgment," the Enogia said. "I have painstakingly pondered this also. From each piece of proof introduced clearly, the land has a place with boss Nosa, everything on top. What's more, under that land has a place with him and no other individual." Then he stopped briefly. "Furthermore, added out of my liberality, I will give it this one of my properties in the western piece of the town. Everything on top and under that land has a place with her and no other person. Promotion this." Who shouted furthermore? Cried. Everybody knew those terrains in the west were uncovering. The residents frequently asked why the Enog still clutched it. The bosses saluted boss Nosa, and that this was done of the castle. For a little while, she remained in her heart, crying, thinking about the thing would have been her destiny. However, on one occasion, she chose it to go also, really look at the land, and check whether she would be able to successfully work on the reapness. When she arrived, she perceived how dry the land was, and she started crying again. At last, she went to get some seeds and cultivating devices so she could begin planting. However, 30 minutes after, she started teeing the dirt. She hit something strong. Promotion. This immediately eliminated soil from it and acknowledged it was gold. However, there was more. She continued to dig a few spots and saw as more gold. Out of nowhere, a man emerged from the shrubberies. "Who are you?" Adisa said, with her voice shaking. "The Enog requested me to stand by here consistently until you viewed as the gold. Clearly the day promotion." Desa came to cry, to argue her case. The ruler acknowledged she was the girl of Osas, who had taken care of her to her demise a few times. He had known about Oas's liberality in the town, and he felt the most ideal way to pay her back was by not leaving Adisa at the point when she wanted his assistance. He realized he had to give boss Nosa the land. However, he moreover maintained that Adisa should remunerated by give her admittance to one of the most mind-blowing kept mysteries in the town. Those terrains in the west were barren since there was gold under the dirt, which kept plants from developing. SOA, who thought she was without trust, unexpectedly had a ton of gold in her control, more than enough to take care of her age. She chosen to promptly leave the town to begin life once more. However, before she left, she went to the Enog royal residence, hailing him, and furthermore, singing tunes of recognition to God. Individuals thought she had at last gone crazy. However, she didn't mind, since God had given her motivation to grin again. The ethical illustration of this story can be tracked down in the blessed book of scriptures, in the book of Galatians 6:7. Be not bamboozled. God isn't derided for it all. a man saith, that he will likewise procure. This story is around two ladies who had the chance to be a parent to one kid, and how the choices they made in the course of their life impacted the existence of their kid. Years after they had died, when the book of scriptures expresses out loud anything that it simply implies the choices you make, and to harvest implies the results of your choices, great or then again, terrible. We as a whole need to make an honest effort to go with the best choices, not only for ourselves, however for individuals that will come after us. And accept me, it's not simply your kids. Your choices can influence your mom, father, companions, thus numerous others. I will stop here since I need to permit you to tell me what you realized. In the last video, I advanced such a huge amount from your remarks. I additionally need to suggest another story I watched on another channel. All of you maybe know about in cultural stories. The story is about D and results. I want to believe that you can carve out opportunity to look at that wonderful story. The connection will be in the portrayal. Likewise, the primary story I posted on YouTube about Princess Eigel has outperformed 2 million perspectives. Golly, you folks are astounding. I chose to compose a book about the story and give it to you free of charge. And I added those exquisite pictures all of you love, so please, if you are intrigued, the connection will likewise be in the portrayal box. And when you enter your email address, the digital book will be sent straightforwardly to your email. I will likewise be contacting you through email whenever I have any significant data to share. So if it's not too much trouble, add me to your location books so the messages don't lose all sense of direction in spam. Thank you for observing this story today, assuming that you appreciated it. If it's not too much trouble, leave a like and offer with your friends and family till sometime later. Bye.